I'm clapping for
Yay me!
Yay!
We're already on a worse.
Yeah, there goes the plan. Hello, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you. Usually it's just me, um, which is fine. But today, I'm just super psyched that I'm with you, Isa, because you are my daughter, and and you made me a dad. So I, I'm very grateful for you. Uh, we're starting this series, and there the table tents. It's about TV. Yeah, it's about TV and spirituality. And our show is not in there, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. There were only 5 spots, and that's okay. That's okay. But it's Yellow Jackets. We're gonna talk quite a bit about it, but before that, for us, the TV has been very important in our lives, and I know sometimes that's not a popular thing to say. It's like, why don't you read a book together? Well,
That's boring.
for us, TV is better. And as we were, as Isabel was growing up, we watched different shows. Like Dora the Explorer. She doesn't remember much of that. But one of our favorite shows was Phineas and Ferb. You know Phineas and Ferb, right? There's 104 days of summer vacation. Then school comes along and just ended. So the annual problem of our generation is finding good and to spend it, like maybe building a rocket. That's it. Eiffel Tower. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, but we're not talking about Phineas and Ferb. Um, uh, anyway, okay. So Isabel. So what else did we do?
Um, we watched a lot of other shows. I have a script. He doesn't. He went off. It's okay. It's hard to remember all of the details of watching TV together, but watching TV and movies was a way that we really bonded as a family. We would always go to the movie theater on Christmas Day and watch movies. But anyway, I digress. I watched America's Next Top Model and Fetch with Rough Ruffman with my mom. And then with my dad, I'd watch things like American Pickers, Pawn Stars, usually something on the Sci-Fi Channel, but especially Ghost Hunters. That was our jam. At the time, living outside of the town where like the infamous Sally House was, watching Ghost Hunters with my dad, we would go on ghost tours in Atchison, Kansas, where we used to live, New Orleans, anywhere really spooky ooky. It really sparked our shared love and joy of occult things, all things occult, alternate religions, and overall just like varying spiritual practices. Which brings us to the show we're talking about today, one with a little bit of everything, 90s nostalgia, queer love stories, and my dad said I could only say this word once today, cannibalism. So I'll give a little bit of a description of what Yellow Jackets is for those who may be unfamiliar. This is likely not how IMDb or even Paramount would describe this show, but a very brief summary without any spoilers, hopefully. A girls' high school soccer team from New Jersey departs for nationals on the West Coast. As they're flying through the air, their plane crashes in an unnamed place, but it's assumed that it's kind of like the Canadian Rockies. They're surrounded by forest and mountains and some lakes, but not a ton. Ultimately, the show is about survival, teenage girlhood, and a cult. The story follows the team timeline and how their lives have changed as adults, and how, what happened in the forest continues to follow them into adulthood. There's some mystery, people eating, and queer love stories all thrown into the mix. So that's Yellow Jackets in a nutshell.
And right, it's a great show.
Really heartwarming.
It is heartwarming. At the end of the show, there's always like a Anyway, a moral of the story, one of the characters comes out and says, no, if you want, no, I'm just kidding. No, it's dark. It's a dark show, and that tracks with with our taste. And I didn't know about it. It's called Yellow Jackets because that's like mascot of the, of the school. And I started watching because Isabel said, hey, have you watched this show? And I said, no. And I started watching, and immediately it hit all the points for me, except for the people eating. It hit all the things that I love about a really good show. It's not a great show to watch with your teenage child unless you're ready to explain some things. But it's a great show. It's about human nature and about some very deep questions of who we are and who we should be. So I was fascinated by the show, the power dynamics, and I just got lost in it. Haha.
Get it lost because they were lost. Yeah, they were lost. So I started watching it. It premiered in the fall of 2021, which is the perfect time for any good kind of like young adult show to air, because once it's finished, all of the college kids come home and they have their parent subscriptions again. So that's when I started watching it. By the time I got home, almost all the episodes had aired, and it was very similar to a show I had watched earlier in 21 called The Wilds, which is on Amazon Prime. Also really good, highly recommend. We have also watched that show. There's less people eating, more just kind of like exploration of like teenage girlhood. So that one's a little bit more mild if that's more your taste.
A little bit kind of like Lost.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like Lost in the social experimenty kind of way. But I digress. I loved watching it for the mostly female cast, which was really awesome. It's a Lord of the Flies-esque show. I really hated reading the book Lord of the Flies because it was all like middle school boys, and that's just like not really something that piques my interest. But this one, it was like high school girls, and that's way more interesting to me. And of course, there were a lot of diverse queer relationships, and that's always really interesting and amazing to see in media. But we'll kind of get more into why we have chosen this show to talk about today. So the crux of this show is kind of like a cult of sorts. Maybe not, it's kind of unclear. The show is still airing. It should have 2 more seasons, so we don't really know what it is, but we can assume that it's kind of cult-like. Regardless, while in the forest being tells the girls to survive, namely through people eating. The strange thing is only a select few of the teammates hear this forest speaking to them. So it's not everybody can hear kind of like these illusions or delusions, some might say. But in the state of survival, all of these girls are in a state of survival, and they're willing to do anything, really, to see their families again. So they listen to the forest and the people who can hear the forest. They eventually turn this spirit into their guiding light, giving it offerings, throwing parties to celebrate, and even during a trial of team members, this being is used to figure out whether someone is guilty of an alleged crime that someone has committed. This following of the forest, of the spirit, continues into adulthood for the surviving team members, becomes a really big part of the adult timeline, with the first season centering on someone trying to out what happened in the woods, and then the second and third season see the forest transformed back into this guiding light, blaming its existence as the reason they have to do shady or actually just really incredibly harmful behavior towards others. It touts this idea that these girls have to appease their spirituality by any means necessary just to survive, but very clearly survival becomes secondary to the thrill of the hunt for 3 of the girls. The very beginning of the first episode, that has become a mystery until the end of the 3rd season, Pit Girl, as it has become known on social media, is a girl running for her life that's what they called her, Pit Girl. Who is Pit Girl? That was like a really big thing. She's running for her life, # Pit Girl. She's running for her life in a nightgown in like the dead of winter. There's snow on the ground, and she falls into a spiked pit, ultimately dying. This ritual turned into that, not of survival, but of a game, of a sport. They used the forest and its whispers as the reason they could even stomach the atrocities that they were doing, though for some, committing harm against others just became fun for them, especially this character called Shauna. Her eyes are very different, the third season versus the first season, kind of a loss of innocence into this kind of crazed being. It's become clear through the 3 seasons that are currently out that the fear of dying in fellow teammates' eyes ignited a desire to control, manipulate, and stir the pot for others by any means necessary, including using this like forest being as a crutch and as a reason to commit these acts.
So for me, the why I was drawn was this idea that religion, or this cult, this spiritual thing that they were doing in the forest, was used to justify the very worst of we can be as human beings. And as a professional religious person, we're not being paid to be religious, right? Okay, I know that's another sermon. Yeah, I don't know. But as a professional in the field of religion, I find that super interesting because we see today, we have seen constantly how religion is used to justify the worst of who we are, and make it
Legitimate.
Yes, thank you. Making legitimate the worst of who we are as human beings. And this is a surprise, not new. It's easy for me to see outside of myself and going like, oh my gosh, these people, they're using religion to be the worst. But, I have to ask myself, am I using my faith to be the worst? Am I using religion to be the worst? Like Anne Lamott says, she begins Traveling Mercies, one of her books, with a quote. She says that we know that we have created God in our own image when God hates the same people that you do. And the first rule of Methodists is to do no harm. So it is impossible for me not to think about, okay, all those people outside of myself, yes, they're terrible, but how about me? In Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 1, great chapter of the Bible. I will highly recommend it. I would say top 10 chapters of the Bible. It's Isaiah chapter 1. So, right? And I love it so much because it summarizes the whole book. So if you don't want to read 66 chapters of Isaiah, which, there are some chapters that are great, like 43 is great, 58 is great, there's some great ones. But if you don't, chapter 1, it summarizes the whole thing, and it was written precisely to summarize it. And in it, God speaks to the people. Now, think about this. This happened 1,500 years ago. I'm sorry, 2,500 years ago.
Way longer than that. This is Old Testament.
This is Old Testament.
Yeah.
This is the Hebrew Scriptures. This happened like way before Jesus, way before Jesus. And the oracle, or what God is speaking to the people, is God says, what shall I think about all of your offerings, all of your sacrifices? I'm fed up with entirely burnt offerings of rams and the fat of well-fed beasts. These were the sacrifices that they will make. I don't want animals to be sacrificed to me or people. When you come to appear before me, who asked this from you? This trampling of my temple's courts. Stop bringing worthless offerings. I cannot stand wickedness with celebration. As I'm living my spiritual life, as I'm living this life that God has given me, that am I bringing together wickedness with celebration before God? Are we? Super easy to judge others, but we need to think about ourselves too. So I'm sure you're aware of all the terrible things that are happening in our nation, in our city. Well, in your city. I'm from Lincoln.
They're happening in Lincoln too.
They're happening in Lincoln too, and there have been raids in Hastings and Grand Island. The legislature meets in Lincoln. There are these terrible things happening in this world. You know them, and we grieve and we cry. We cry. We might be filled with despair. I know I have. Anger, being discouraged. But then some pretty awesome things happened, like yesterday. Well, this whole month, celebrating the lives the lives of our LGBTQIA friends. And yesterday, all these people marching in the streets saying, "No, not me." That's pretty awesome. That is full of hope. That is that is not that is a celebration that there is no wickedness in it. Why? Because there is no judgment. There is compassion. There is empathy. There is love. And yes, when we are compassionate and kind and loving, that alone reveals where we fall short, where our society falls short. But there is hope, and there's a way of being. Yesterday in Kansas City, the Kansas City Star was interviewing a person. "Why are you here at this manifestation?" And she said, "Because my faith calls me to." That is when faith brings the best of us, when we're able to stand for those who cannot stand, speak for those who could not speak for themselves. And like Proverbs says, for us to be able to advocate for the poor and the needy, that is the best of us. Yellow Jackets, none of this is in Yellow Jackets, this message, but kind of like makes me think about, am I being the best that God has made me to be? Am I pursuing not judgment, even though I really want to judge people, really do, struggling with that, but instead living a life of love, kindness, compassion, of doing all the good that I can do. Oh my gosh, you know what? Amen. Could keep going, but why? So anyway, I am so thrilled again. Thank you, Deborah, for asking us to do this. Thank you for asking us to do this on Father's Day. And again, I'm so proud of you, Isabel, and of Elijah, who was here at the early service, and of Jaron, who is my son-in-law. Well, precisely because we raise you to make a difference in this world, and you are doing it. So that's where hope rises up within me. So thanks for making me a dad. Thanks for all the gifts that you're going to give me here in a few. No, thank you for the gift of your presence. And thank you all for listening. So thank you.